Hey everybody, Michael Swaim here with another Papa Bear update for you. I got my fuzzy comb mania, I got my spooky castle, my painting of myself, my freaky disembodied hand. So let's talk movies. Thanks so much, obviously, to everyone who's followed, supported, spread the word so far. Just couldn't appreciate you more. As of this taping, we're 19% funded in less than a fifth of the way through our campaign. So at this rate, we'll be all right. But please do keep spreading the word if you can, because of course we get a big surge at the beginning. And then we try to keep it going. We've got some exciting stuff happening on that front. We'll be guesting on just a ton of podcasts, including some very big ones to get the word out. We're running some of our Small Beans videos on the Cracked YouTube channel, which has millions of subscribers compared to our 75K. So hopefully that'll help. But I'm here today to talk about Hank. And if you've read the script or even the synopsis, Hank, of course, is the catalyst. I wouldn't say the central character, which is probably Trey, but the Hank-Trey arc and relationship, as it were, and navigating that forms basically the spine of the movie. So I wanted to do a series of updates where we talk about the real folks that the characters in the film are based on. Because if you didn't know, the movie's based on my childhood, which is something we don't usually do, right? We usually do total make-em-ups. If you know our work, you know what I mean. But we just really fell in love with this story and feel like it's becoming more and more relevant as we experience a slide back towards sort of Puritanism in this country, which already there was too much of. So, a little about my dad, whose real name I won't drop for obvious reasons, but of course, who read the script and approves and supports me. When I was young, things I would say were difficult between my parents for reasons that later became much clearer. And my mom, during that period, felt sort of distanced from her husband. And then, of course, one day he came out as gay. And this was after they got divorced already. So I grew up as a kid with mom during the weekdays, dad on the weekends, and I sort of credit so much to my mom. And we'll do a movie about her someday. But my dad is an interesting figure to wrap a movie around for us, just because he's the reason I'm in the career I'm in and why you have all the sketches and funny shit that I've done. Because basically he was an incredibly, almost encyclopedic font of wisdom about pop culture. I was literally raised like a super soldier in a dojo, but pop culture, showed us movies way before we should see them, like Eraserhead when we're 8 years old and stuff. Sat us down to watch the first episode of The Simpsons and said, this show will be important. He was just on the ball. And I even did flashcards of an album cover. What album is this? Who's the bassist? What year did it come out? And that extended to movies, comic books, everything. So that's a big thread you'll see in the script if you read it, and in the movie if you watch it. Another thing about my dad is, as soon as he came out, and I've had other friends experience this, and this was in his late 40s, you got to understand the rush of being yourself finally, right? Embracing your identity. For him, as it came to sexual orientation, and then of course also an overlapping interest in, and I will frankly say it because I think sex is natural as long as you're not hurting anyone, anthropomorphized animals that are sexualized. Now, we say this a lot because part of our goal here is to explode myths about furries. There are many, many, many furs, although it is a very queer, inclusive community, who don't dabble in the sexual side of it and don't consider it part of their sexual orientation. So we've tried to make it clear that this story is unique to my dad and the characters represented. But if you read closely, you'll see they're all undergoing this similar process, which is sort of the formation of your sexual identity. And what we want to sort of prove through the film is that that's a spectrum. It's complex. It's irreducibly unique for everyone. And it's a journey to discover that. For some people, through puberty, you find yourself. And for many people, it takes much, much longer. For my dad, it did. And I guess what I'm getting at is he went big gay. As soon as he came out, and big fur, very proud, became sort of like a a father figure in the fur community, as you'll see, of course, in the story with Arturo. That's based on a true story. And sometimes I think did go too far. And it's important, right, that characters be flawed so that arc exists. But my dad, I think, did bandy highly sexual stuff in front of us in a way that will make some people uncomfortable. And we wanted to tackle that as well, right? Hank is not perfect. Hank is so enthralled in this discovery of his identity that he maybe is overlooking the portion of his identity that's also a father to Trey at a very crucial time while Trey's coming of age. I will say, in real life, it didn't bother me at all that he was a furry. We're also fictionalizing that because that's how you give a character arc and that's how you show growth. But back to my real dad, had no filter. That is represented in this film. We try to ride the line because, of course, the goal of the movie is to get people who maybe haven't thought about it or are on the fence or even sliding backwards because of all the misinformation out there to see furries in a normal light. It's just a nerdy pop culture fandom. If you go to a fur convention, it's the same as going to a Comic-Con. It's just a different focus. There's exactly the same amount of sexual content as there is at Comic-Con, like a room that's adults only. So we want to normalize that, but we also want to normalize queerness, which, God, you'd think would be normalized by now, but we still have a ways to go, of course, as we all know. And everyone's sexual identity. I'll talk more about Trey, Arturo, and Sarah, of course, in future updates. I love my dad very much. He loves me, and he shows me that through our pop culture connection. So you'll see that as a recurring thread. All this shit is real. The movie starts at my favorite Mexican restaurant in the world, down the street from my dad's house. Please don't reverse engineer that information and bother him. But I think that's about it. Yeah, so the comedy, let's see. I'll just give a little anecdote. We actually, I think in the script, there's been many iterations of the script. I think the one we're on is the strongest and most well-balanced. But where Hank, true story, Ahmed is loosely based on my friend Griffin. Griffin, after going in the spa, took it upon himself not to use our normal bathroom to shower often, but to open my dad's bedroom closed door and use his private bathroom, which my dad didn't think he would do in his defense, because it was nicer. It's a nicer bathroom, so he just did that. And he showered with this thing that had really good pressure, though. It was like a silver tube, and came out and said, man, my dad's name, the pressure in that, I need a shower head like that. My dad went totally pale. And it turned out it's like a butt plug shower thing, that shoots water up to stimulate your prostate. So wacky shenanigans like that. Every time growing up, I would tell my friends I had a pretty normal childhood and then describe details. They'd go, that's not normal. It's fascinating. And that should be a movie. So that's what we did. I wanted to tell that story because it was a scene in an older draft. And we talked to someone, sort of a queer icon who I'm a big fan of, who kindly read the script and was like, I think this is wise. If you're trying to change minds at all, which is already hard enough, you got to meet people where they're at to some degree. People who lean homophobic, who somehow end up watching the movie, will use stuff that's too flagrant as immediate fodder, to write off the story. We don't want that. It's a difficult balance. We're still open to feedback on the script, especially from people in the furry community, people in the LGBTQIA+ community. And yeah, we're just trying to hit that balance just right, because we want Hank to still have the flavor that my dad has in real life, the character, the buoyancy, and we don't want to soften that too much because it's real life and people should just be fine with it. But we are trying to ride a line where we had drafts where Hank was basically perfect because we don't want anyone to come for our queer fam, but we realized they killed the arc. So trying to hit that balance. I rambled for far too long. That's my Hank update. Please keep getting the word out. Papa Bear, Papa Bear, Papa Bear. Thanks so much.